Hi, everyone. This is Mary Jane Berry, and I am, let's see, there we go, welcoming you to the Georgetown Area Parkinson Support Group. We're known as GAPS. And so thank you for everybody for coming. I know you're all excited to hear Dr. Soileau, and I've got to be sure and let him know that he's going to have to stay kind of right here so he can be in the screen. So we have some limitation to that. But I walked around earlier for we doing okay on there. I walked around earlier for our Zoom crowd to see some of our sponsors. We've got some awesome sponsors, so I will identify them as we get going. But I would like to thank you so much for coming. Thank you to my Zoom team, which is in the corner, and that's Don Story, Deb Jones helps him, and Lauren has helping with some of the T-shirts. I'm going to start off the meeting by saying we will not have a meeting in November. So no meeting in November because it's Thanksgiving. I want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving even now. So no meeting. However, we will have an early December meeting. And the December meeting is going to be fun. If anybody's been to our holiday party, and I think probably over half of you guys have been in the past, this is a fun time. We don't have a speaker. We're just going to enjoy fellowship and socialization. We're going to have door prizes. We're going to have games. I even was contacted by Dillard's. Yeah, Dillard's, the big store. And they said that they would like to come out and set up a little side thing and have a few little items and give some door prizes. And they might even bring the Estee Lauder makeup folks and give samples. And I said, sure, come on. So it's going to be really fun. And we're going to have music. And so anyway, plan on coming in December. We're going to do the barbecue. I think I've got a picture of it right here. Yes. We're going to do the barbecue sandwiches like we did before. And again, this is no charge to you. This is when I raise the funds for the year and through the sponsorships. Again, we're a nonprofit. I'm not trying to make a profit. So I turn it right back to give to you guys. And so please come. I will have plenty of food here. And for those that are gluten, I know they don't want the bread, they'll have the barbecue in a cup. So that's what we've done before. So we'll have that and some sides. But then for dessert, this is where you do help out. For dessert, we have cookies. Yes. So everybody brings cookies. We're going to set up a whole long table just like this. And that's our dessert. But what's really nice, it's a cookie exchange. So with your container that you brought your cookies in, you get to go pick different cookies and take cookies home. And we usually have lots and lots of cookies. So it's a really fun opportunity. And by all means, I'm going to encourage you to bring your family and friends to this event because it's just an opportunity to connect and to socialize. I mean, Parkinson's is not fun. Parkinson's is the pits. And Parkinson's slows us down, but it doesn't stop us. And we can still have fun and enjoy life. And that's the whole purpose of this support group. So anyway, I hope to see everybody in December. And I, of course, will be sending you out reminders. Door prizes. I want you guys to know we got some great door prizes back there. I hope everybody got a ticket. Everybody got a ticket. We'll be doing door prizes right after Dr. Soileau. And of course, our sponsors, y'all can bring tickets too or get a ticket if you want to. The agenda for today, of course, is just as we're doing some announcements. Our exercise is going to be by 4:13, boxing and fitness. Woo! We got Miss Carrie over there. Yep. And then, of course, Dr. Soileau. And Dr. Soileau's format is really neat because it's all a question and answer. He'll be sharing some information about Parkinson's, but it's your opportunity to ask questions directly to the doctor. And again, those on the Zoom, if you have a question, be sure that you either unmute or you can put it in the chat, and we will be monitoring that in order that we can get your question answered. Now, before I go right on in, I'll go on and do this. We have a new executive director. Yep, I will be stepping down. I've been doing this for 13 years. I know, but I will be, thank you. Yeah. I don't know. Is that clapping for me to step down? I know. But thank you. But the bottom line is I will still be, involved just to kind of help out and be a little worker bee. I'll put up chairs. Yep. Anyway, because for some of you who are new, we put up chairs. We have to kind of put up our chairs and our tables in order to have this facility. So I'll be putting up chairs too then and not doing all this other stuff. But you'll get to meet James at the December meeting. So if you can, you'll get a chance to meet him and talk to him. He's a wonderful guy. And then, of course, hopefully all of our board members will be here. We're fortunate we have some board members here now. We've got Carrie from 413 is one of our board members. And yep, and we've got Patty Rooney Lingo in the back as one of our board members. We've got Stacy over here, one of our board members. And I'm doing a quick scan to see if there's anyone else. I don't think anybody else was able to make it, but hopefully they'll be all here at the December meeting. But one of the things, we're going to have a strategic planning meeting coming up next month. We, the board, and the new executive director. I've given you guys all in your chair is a little survey. It's your opportunity to provide information back to me so that I can share with the board. So please, if you could just take a few minutes to fill this out. Patty will be going around a little bit later to pick some up, and then plus we'll have something at the door. She's got a blue bag right there. She's Vanna. Vanna, would you like to come up and show them your blue bag? She's going to walk here. She's doing such a good job. And I just got to share with you guys, Patty is my right arm, that's right, and my left arm. I say that because she has been a tremendous help with me. Thank you, Patty. Anyway, yeah. So fill this out, and you can drop your pen and the information back in the bag, and we just greatly appreciate it. Okay, continuing right on, I want to thank all of our sponsors. We've got Amneal, and I don't think that is with Jill, and they're in the process of transitioning to a new rep. So she was not able to be here. But Amneal is a sponsor. Visiting Angels is a sponsor. So Stacy, stand up and wave. If y'all have any questions at all, y'all definitely, by all means, please, go check her out and all the services that they offer. We have Amy Dukes with Acadia. Again, she was not able to make it, but they have been a sponsor for us all year long. We have All Care Therapies in the back. And so, yes, I want to say thank you so much for coming. All Care Therapies provides occupational therapy, as well as physical therapy, as well as speech therapy. So by all means, check that out for sure. And by the way, that is covered by Medicare for our Parkinson folks. And so I recommend you checking that out. Another sponsor that's been a sponsor all year is Medtronic, but they were not able to make it today. But this is David Ott and Candace. So they are a DBS group. And by all means, if you ever have questions about DBS or any of your products, or the medications you're on, if you want to send me an email, I can put you in contact with the rep. So just know you always have that available to you. Another sponsor is Supernus. Supernus has quite a few meds that you can see, Apoquin, Gocovy, and he's not able to be here, but I always acknowledge because they were. But we have somebody really special here. In fact, I'm going to make her do a Vanna White also with her youngins. So come on up here. This is Erin. Erin is with Abby. And look at this. This is her newest. This is the newest one. Yeah. We have Esther. This is Esther. This is the brand new one. And Esther's a cow, right? And I think you're a tiger, right? Whoa, now we're shy. And his name again is Judah. Judah. We got Esther and Judah. Well, we want to say thank you so much for coming. Yes.
You say you're welcome?
Yeah. So if you have any questions about Abby, that's the Duopa product, by all means, please go over and check her out. And one of the other things that we're talking about babies, we are not, if you have a child or a grandchild that you would like to bring, we've had children here, it's perfectly okay. And I do hope soon that Meredith is going to bring her baby. Did y'all see I put her picture in the newsletter, in this last newsletter? And she has a beautiful baby girl. And so we're very excited. Hopefully she'll bring the baby sometime to see us. Okay, Rainy and Rainy. Yes, if you'd like to stand up, we've got Kevin here and we have Sarah, and they have been wonderful sponsors also. We want to say thank you again for coming. So by all means, if you would like to check out estate planning or anything of that sort, these are the guys to talk to. So, and Grand Living, we always acknowledge Grand Living because this is where we have our educational luncheons. And if you've ever been to an educational luncheon, they're fun. You get a meal out of it, plus you get to learn a lot. They're very short, and it's a branded presentation. So they actually will share on their product. So I encourage you to come. This is when we meet it there at the Grand Living. And the next luncheon coming up is going to be sponsored by Boston Scientific. They're not here, but I've already started the sign up sheet, and several of you have already started signing up. This is going to be November the 8th. Boston Scientific will have a speaker. I don't know who their speaker is going to be, but many times for these educational luncheons, they fly people in. We've had them fly in from California, from New York, from just all over. Of course, the last one we just had, Dr. Soileau spoke, and it was very, very popular. And we had 58 in attendance, which was our largest attendance also. So by all means, sign up for these if you would like to learn. They'll be talking about DBS. So if you even kind of want to know a little bit more information about it, this is a great time to learn. Now I want to share with you what I call our friends and supporters. And these are the group. GAPS is involved with all of these, and we work together. And we're so fortunate. We've got AIDS of Central Texas. Roger is here, and Bobby. They have all of the caregiving. They've got lots of classes. They've got the balance class. They've got all sorts of stuff. So you see that in my newsletters that I advertise. And so these are the folks that put it on. So by all means, check it out with them. We also have the Caring Place. Rita's here, and Rita is always sharing about and the things that they offer from the Caring Place. Not only is it products and stuff like that, but they offer food and different things of that sort. So I want to really recommend them. Another person I definitely don't want to leave out, but I'm on that side of the room, is Dudley. Dudley, stand up. Dudley is our card meister, if you want to say. He's also a 413 fighter, but he is started card games. So on Mondays, right here at the Baptist Church, we have card games starting at 2:00, and we encourage you to come and just play cards. It's hearts or spades or just whatever. So by all means, talk to Dudley and feel free to sign up, and you can just show up. You're not obligated. And again, as somebody was asking me earlier, all of our stuff is free that we GAPS offers. So by all means, this is a free thing. And let me see, do I have any other? Oh yes, gift of time. Gift of time. And Genesis, if you'd like to just stand up and wave. Genesis is with the Gift of Time. The Gift of Time is a wonderful program. They offer a lot of resources for those with dementia or early cognitive changes, as well as some training. So I want to say, please talk to her. And as you can see on the screen, there's a whole lot more that are part of our friends of GAPS. So we just want to acknowledge them. Caregivers, one of the things we also have is our caregiver meeting. Our caregiver meeting is on the second Thursday of every month, second Thursday. Judy Mayo, you can raise your hand. Judy Mayo helps me with that. And we have a good group. It's a chance to just really, for the caregivers, just to really share and learn new things that maybe could help in the caregiving process. So I would like to welcome anyone and encourage anyone to please join us. And I send that out. That's going to be November 14th at 2 p.m. to 3:30. We will not have a December meeting, but we will definitely, we may have a December meeting. It shouldn't interfere. I'll double check with the crowd and we see. So I'll let you know by email, my email, my newsletter. So you'll get to find out. Okay. And as you know, my GAPS mantra, and this is something that I kind of started earlier, is to educate, educate, educate. And that's the purpose of these meetings. Exercise, exercise, exercise. That's why we encourage 413 boxing and fitness. That's why we've set up classes on Wednesdays that are free, chair yoga, and we have Power for Parkinson coming. Sun City offers Parkinson fitness. The Sun City classes, by the way, there is a charge for the Sun City classes. They have opened it up to non-residents. However, you do need to get the permission. You need to kind of go through and learn how they do it. And there is still a charge, but exercise is so important. And then socialize. That's why we meet here at 2:30 before the meeting starts at 3 to socialize. That's why we have socials. We had a wonderful, wonderful and a fun fundraiser that was a great chance to socialize and play games. And we just had a lot of fun. And so I want to encourage you to do a lot of our socialization. We will start back on our socials in January because December is going to be the big party. These are our exercise classes I was just sharing with you. Again, I will say, though, Monday, and I've got to talk to my singers, we do singing every Monday on the first, third, and fifth Monday. At this same area, they're going to have a big Christmas spectacular that first week in November. And by the way, It's really fun. You ought to go to that too. But they're going to bump us out so they could be setting up for that for Monday. But then the next week we're back in. It's no problem. So the first, third, and fifth Monday is singing. I have two professional singers and a piano player. It's really fun. The vocal exercise is on the second and fourth. That's actually speech therapy. That's either going to be Speak Out or LSVT Loud or the Loud Crowd. And so bottom line is that will be our Mondays. On Monday afternoon after that is going to be our card games. Tuesdays and Thursdays are Parkinson Fitness. And by the way, some of you attend our Tuesday, which is only on the fourth Tuesday of the month. And that is our art class. And boy, that's fun. Several of you guys have been to that.
Question mark.
Okay, and I think, let's see here. Don, if y'all can just, mute this a little bit. Thank you. Anyway, art therapy is fun, but we had our last one for this year, but we'll start it back up in January. Chair yoga is our newest class. It starts at 11:30. Anne Marie, if you'll stand up. Anne Marie is our
You should have just
instructor.
clicked on the join button on the calendar, and then
Okay.
it should bring you in. You should click on the app to join. It should jump to the.
There we go. Okay. So anyway, Anne Marie, thank you so much. And it's fun. And then Wednesday after her class is Power for Parkinson's, another fun one. Again, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Parkinson Fitness, again, $5. And I do have the phone number to contact, which is Kathy Carver. Kathy, I think I saw you here. You can stand up, Kathy, so that everybody, there you go. This is Kathy with Sun City, and you can talk to her here, but by all means, her phone number is in my emails. So call her first and get it all set up. And then on Friday, Stephen offers, he's our board president, Loud and Clear, a free online class. And then on the fourth Friday, which happens to be tomorrow, is the fourth Friday, we have Brain Games. Brain Games is really fun. I was able to get a grant from Aging is Cool. We meet at the Oaks. The Oaks is another retirement community just right off of Williams. What's nice is if you go to that class, the Brain Games, you're welcome to stay for lunch at that facility. So it's really neat. And if you want to, by all means, do that. But then I've got it down here, boxing with Parkinson's. We got the 413, and we also have Rock Steady Boxing, which is at the Grand. So lots of opportunities. And these are just some of the pictures of just different things. Hopefully, I know they can see it really clear on Zoom. We're washed out. Oh, guess what? I just found out today that the church is getting a brand new screen, and it's going to be an HDMI screen. So all I'll do is just plug in, and it's going to be clear. It's going to be great, and I'm so excited. Hopefully, I'll have it ready by December. So anyway, just want to let you know they're working on it. I was super excited. Didn't take too much to excite me, but that did. Okay, and here's just some more pictures of just all the fun classes. So just know that we have this available to you. Now, I want to share one other thing for caregivers. The Parkinson Foundation is going to have a national online webinar, and it's going to be on Saturday, November the 2nd. It's going to start at 12 noon. It should be over around 2. And what's really, really neat, and I feel very honored, they asked me to be a moderator. I will be one of the moderators. They are anticipating over 1,500 people to join this webinar. So what they're going to do is we'll have a speaker at the beginning. Then they're going to put us in Zoom breakout sessions. And when we're in a Zoom breakout session, then there'll be a moderator. So if you want to, you guys, it's in my newsletter, but all means, please feel free to, let me see if I can go back there, and I will try to do another mute. Here we go. And so feel free to sign up for this thing. It'll be nice. So anyway, looking forward to doing this opportunity. All in. Okay, I know. See, these are my announcements. I feel like I have so much, but there's so much I want to tell you guys about. Again, we're very, very fortunate. This is going to be a national Parkinson conference. It's going to be in Austin, and it's called Parkinson Movement Disorder Alliance, PMD Alliance. We'll be doing it November 20th and 21st. and they have asked GAPS to be the reception, to be the host reception. So we are very involved in it, as well as our art instructor, Cindy, will have 2 breakout sessions. So there's a lot going on with here. There's this gentleman here is Robert Conrad, this first fellow that's holding his hand out, and he's doing it's laughter and it's improv for Parkinson's. Okay, and let's see here. We'll just do another little quick. Okay, there we go. Mute. Okay, I think we muted. I hope we did. Yeah. Okay. Oh, let me go back here. Anyway, this is going to be Jimmy Choi. Has anybody ever seen Jimmy Choi? He's been on, American Ninja Warrior. He is actually going to be one of the speakers there also. So it's just going to be a great opportunity. And I do hope you guys sign up to go to that. And let's see. It's going to be the 19th. This is the reception, the 20th and 21st. I mean, it's right here in our backyard. They did this. They only do this every 2 years. And 2 years ago, it was in Washington, D.C. And I was very fortunate to be able to be a speaker there. But it was great. And this year, they came to Texas. So by all means, please check it out. Okay, going right on. Oh, we finally getting up here to Miss Carrie. That's right. This is our segment. And for those that are new to our Parkinson meetings, we have a segment that is right before our speaker, which is to exercise, because y'all been hearing me talk about all these announcements. And now she's going to do it. Now, in order for us to be sure to get you on the camera, you'll need to be kind of staying close. Or did you want to be up in the front? Wherever you want me, Mary Jane. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do right here, I'm going to do a stop share so that we can get you big. Yes, there you are. Oh, you're nice and big now, girlfriend. Right.
Yeah, I've never been accused of being small. So, all right. Hey, everybody. Welcome. I'm Coach Carrie. Good to see you guys. I coach at 413 Fitness. If you are
you're gonna have to stay right there. You gotta take your
if you are a 413 Fitness person, give me a big oh yeah. All right, awesome. Okay, so we're going to do a little exercising today. First thing I want you to do, if you are able, I would like for you to stand where you are. If you have a walker with you, if you want to put that right in front of you, that would be amazing. All right. So as I talk, I'm just going to be doing some things with my arms, and I want you guys to do those with me. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit about 413, and then we're going to play a game. This week, we have had so much fun in 413. Oh, my stars. What's that? Oh, my. 2 arms. Yeah, 2 arms. Go for it. Yeah, 2 arms. We have had so much fun this week in 413. We have smiled and laughed and worked out our bodies and made our muscles sore and socialized and laughed. Y'all, it has been awesome. It's been a lot of fun. So that's what we do at 413 is we exercise while we have fun. So we have classes on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays right up the road on Shell Road here in Georgetown. We also have a gym in North Austin as well. I also have 3 levels of classes, and I have people in this room today in all 3 different levels. I have a high intensity class where we get after it. I have a medium intensity class, and I have a low intensity class for those that have walkers or a little bit more balance challenged. So you will fit, I promise. All right, so that's enough about 413 and our times. Come see me after if you want to know more. All right, let's play a game. Are y'all ready? Okay, I'm going to turn on some music. I don't know how this is going to work, but music is very, very, very important in our classes. On the days that we've had where the Wi-Fi hasn't worked, I tell you what, it's very different without music. So I'm going to turn on a little music and we're going to play a game. All right. This game in class, we do this around the room, but here today, we're going to do it at your spot. Okay. I have 2 basic commands for you. March and stop. Okay. Everybody think they can handle those 2 commands? All right. Let's go for it. Okay, Dolly. All right. Let's march. Here we go. Yeah. If you are sitting, you can just pick your knees up. All right. Pick your knees up where you are if you are sitting. All right. Stop. Push. Yeah. Swing those arms, friends. Swing those arms. Yeah. Get it going. Stop. March. And stop. All right. So you thought that was kind of easy, right? Okay, I'm switching the directions on you. Stop means march, and march means stop. Okay? Stop means march, and march means stop. Okay, Dolly, let's go. Stop. March. Stop. March. Stop. Swing those arms, friend. There you go. March. Stop. March. Stop. All right, rest. Okay, good. I've got two more commands for you. All right. When I say name, I want you to shout out your name. Did I say whisper? What did I say? Shout. This ready? And the second command is dance. When I say dance, get after it. All right? Get after it. Dolly's got us. Dolly's got us. Okay, but stop still means march, and march still means stop. Name is name, and dance is dance. All right, y'all ready? No. No. Dance. Yeah. Yes. March. Name. Name. Dance. Stop. Yeah, I know it's a little diabolical. I get it, but it's so fun. All right, and rest. Okay, last round. Last round. Stop is march. March is stop. Name is dance. Dance is here. Same reaction when we play this game in class. They're like, oh, really, coach? Yes, really. Okay, let's dance. 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 Okay. Dolly, take it away. All right. Stop. Swing those arms. Name. Dance. Dance. March. Very good. Stop. Dance. Dance. Name. And rest. Great job. Give yourself a hand. Give yourself a hand. That was awesome. That was awesome. If you want to learn more about 413 Fitness, come and see me as soon as Dr. Soileau is finished.
Thank you, Carrie. And that is what's so awesome. It's just so much fun to join her class as well as the Sun City classes, as well as our classes on Wednesday. And so by all means, okay, I'm going to jump back up here. I hope our Zoom crowd did that also, because that is a fun thing. And by the way, this is Christy Richardson right here that you see. And Christy, there we go. Christy is the founder and owner and CEO of 413 Fitness. So we are very fortunate to be good partners with them. And have Carrie as a board member. Yay, yay, yay. All right. Oh, guess what? We have special guests here. I'm going to even ask them to sign. Look, boys, you got your picture on there. Y'all are famous, famous, famous. Anyway, this is Dr. Soileau and his family, Janice and the boys. And so it's just really super. They're right here on the front row. Wonderful. As I said earlier, we encourage children to come. It's perfectly okay. And so I wanted to be sure to introduce them as well as introducing Dr. Soileau right here. So Dr. Soileau, of course, was a Texas Movement Disorder Specialist. And many of you guys know him. I'm going to let him come on up. He's going to be talking about frequently asked questions. I'll let him give his whole bio here, but they are a specialized neurology practice dedicated to those with movement disorders. So it's not only Parkinson's. He takes care of a lot of other things. So, sir, come right on up. And I'm going to be sure and tell you, though, that you're going to need to stand kind of right in here so the Zoom crowd can see you. And also, we're recording this so that you are on recording. And for questions, I'll run. I have another mic.
Okay, sounds good. Hello, everyone. It's been a year since I've spoken with this group. Last time I was in a cowboy hat and my costume, but you didn't know it was a costume. So it's good to be back. Thanks for having me again. And thank you to my three boys for being here. Any words of encouragement for the crowd? I love putting them on the spot. So if I know my oldest, he would say gig 'em. But if I know my wife and I, we would say sick 'em. Baylor Bears, go Bears. All right. So in my usual fashion, I like to start with a joke. And when I was at physical therapy this morning, I heard a joke. And the joke goes like this. What's the problem with twin witches in lieu of Halloween? You can't tell which is which. It's good, right? I know. Boys, get ready. They're only going to get worse as the time goes on. Yeah. All right, guys. So for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure to know or meet, my name is Michael Soileau. I'm a movement disorder specialist here in town. Originally from Southeast Texas, and been in practice now for 10 or 11 years or so. And this is one of my favorite groups to speak to always, because I'm blessed to get to travel all over the country, and I get to see people and talk to people, both neurologists, patients, and this is always my favorite group. And I mean that not because I'm biased and this is my hometown, but truly, Mary Jane and her team has really just remarkably built this organization up and does so much, not just for Georgetown, but people all around this region. And so seems like a good time to give another round of applause to Mary Jane. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So anyway, I realize that most often we don't have, or our patients don't have the time where you can just sit almost like a coffee chat, fireside chat with a movement disorder specialist. And so I very purposefully and intentionally not prepared slides or any formal thing like that. One of my favorite things to do is to just answer questions and to give you a time without, a 30-minute time clock or a 60-minute time clock at a visit, to just ask questions. And if I don't know, I don't know, but anything's fair game. And so I always love doing that. And all of you have really lots of wonderful questions. And I will say, remember, if you're thinking it, chances are someone else is too. So don't be shy by any means to ask questions. That's what we're here for. And you too in Zoom land out there, don't be scared to ask questions. But just to get the juices flowing, I always like to talk about some of the late breaking things in Parkinson's disease. So we just kind of got back from our big international conference that happened to be in Philadelphia a few weeks ago. one of the things that I was struck by, there was an MIT professor there that has her and her team have built this respiratory band that goes around you when you're sleeping. And with a 90% accuracy, we can diagnose Parkinson's disease using AI technology and this band just by looking at a person's breathing pattern when you're sleeping. Yeah, you should have heard the crowd of international experts. And what's neat about that is it was not dependent on tremor. It was not dependent on walking, moving. The things that we've used since 1817, when James Parkinson first described Parkinson's disease, it wasn't dependent on any of that. So obviously work in progress, it's not even in studies yet. It's just prototypes and things like that, but that's pretty neat. On a humbling perspective, they're estimating at least 150% increase in Parkinson's in the next 20 years or so, now that COVID has been going on. And so that's a humbling statistic for me to hear, and all of you as well. Not to say that COVID directly causes Parkinson's. I'm not saying that directly, but it's not uncommon in our world of brain and nerve and spine and all that good stuff for viruses to be contributing to neurological diseases. For example, the monovirus EBV, Epstein-Barr virus, can contribute to multiple sclerosis. So that's not a new principle at all, but that's a very humbling thing to hear. So even more important for us to find good studies and research studies to diagnose Parkinson's sooner before we even can see it, and how do we halt it, right? And there's some really good things happening with stem cells and all kinds of stuff, which I'm sure we'll get into. And one thing that I love doing is clinical research too. And so I just want to put a plug in for Wendy, our clinical research coordinator. Wave to the crowd, Wendy. And Julie, our practice administrator, who's here from the office. And what I need your help with is we have 2 studies that we're enrolling right now for patients that have Parkinson's disease with wearing off symptoms. That means your medicine is not working as well as it needs to. And the 2 medicines, we have 2 different medicines being looked at. And one medicine works similar to a medicine called Viagra. You may have heard of it. I'm not saying that that's what we're studying, but the medicine, it works the same way in that it also has receptors in the brain, and it's thought to reduce off time or improve on time. But it's the same type of mechanism. And that medicine is being looked at in Parkinson's disease, and we have a clinical trial ongoing for that. And it's a very short trial. It's a phase 2 trial, and that's only a 9-week trial, so pretty quick trial. So that's kind of neat to take part in. We have another trial that is just launching of a phase 3 medicine that is thought to lift the brake on what is contributing to Parkinson's symptoms. And that's a study that's just starting. Wendy and I just got back from our investigator meeting with that. And that's a little longer study. That's about a 3-month study. But there may be an open label extension in that study. So here's why I think it's important for us to do research studies. Everyone before us that have taken medicines the medicines that you're currently taking now, there are people just like yourselves that went before you, and some of you have been in studies, so you know this, but they have contributed to the field. And so clinical research is a really cool way to, number one, get to know us better, because we're not bound by an insurance time clock. But number 2, it's a really great way to give back if you're able to the medical research. So we also have 2 studies upcoming, both of which are phase 4 studies. That means that it's already FDA approved. So this is monitoring patients after. And one of those is with Soileau, which is the subcutaneous levodopa, under the skin levodopa pump that was just FDA approved last week, I believe, very recently. We've been waiting quite a while for that, and some of you have even participated in that trial, in the phase 3 trial that we did at our office. And then also we have another medicine that is called Crexont that is similar to Rytari. If you've heard of Rytari, it's another version of carbidopa levodopa, and we'll soon have another study with Crexont following patients that are on that and seeing how that affects the off time and on time. And that's a phase 4 study. It's not quite, both of those latter two are not quite open yet, but exciting things that we have just here in town, where you don't have to go to Houston or Dallas. So I would encourage your involvement there. And if you think you may be interested in that, or you're not sure if you would be or not and want to chat more about that, Wendy's a great resource, as am I. So please catch us after. But I'd just like to plug that into just to get the juices flowing. So let me open it up to the crowd and ask if there are any questions, because I certainly have things I can comment on, but I would love to hear your questions first and foremost. And then as far as time goes, Mary Jane, just let me know, throw something at me when I need to stop. All right. Yes, sir, in the blue shirt.
Are there any alternatives to people with resistance, carbidopa levodopa resistance?
I can repeat the question. Yeah, that's a great question. So his question was, are there any alternative treatments to those that maybe have some levodopa resistant symptoms? So let me kind of talk about what that is. So as you know, levodopa is the gold standard treatment of Parkinson's. And we have, I think we're up to nine different versions of that medicine now, which is just mind-blowing. That's not even all the meds that we have available to treat Parkinson's. That's just that type. And in general, if you remember, everyone with Parkinson's should have stiffness or rigidity, we call that, and slowness. And I don't mean, I'm getting up in the morning, it's cold outside, I'm stiffer, I'm slower until I get moving and grooving. I mean, I start off big and I get smaller when my steps start off wide and then they get shorter. My handwriting starts off big and it gets smaller. My voice starts off loud and it gets softer. That whole phenomenon is Parkinsonism. That means you have low dopamine. So how do we fix that? We give dopamine back to you. Notice I didn't say tremor, because not everyone with Parkinson's has a tremor, okay? Now, sometimes tremor is not as responsive to dopamine as stiffness and slowness. Why is that? We don't know. Some patients have great response to dopamine with their tremor, some patients not so much. So what do we do in those cases in which dopamine is not really helping tremor? Well, the easiest thing to do to get rid of the tremor, but maybe the biggest step for our patients, is to consider something like deep brain stimulation. So we don't just automatically rush to do deep brain stimulation, but in someone who has a really robust tremor that's very difficult to control or very problematic and the meds just aren't helping, we'll oftentimes consider something like that, or focused ultrasound is another option for those folks with tremor. We also have medications that we can use. So remember, there's this entity called essential tremor. And a lot of people maybe start off with a diagnosis of essential tremor, but then later on get Parkinson's disease, or maybe sometimes they were incorrectly diagnosed as essential tremor and truly have Parkinson's, or even vice versa, by the way. But in those patients, we have all of those meds that we can also use for tremor. So you've heard me say this before, but there is no one size fits all for every patient. So we have to really use whatever is needed to control the most bothersome or troublesome symptom. So another symptom that people really get bothered by is something called freezing. And so that's where, you try to move and your feet get stuck and you just can't lift them very well in a tight corner or a tight space, like in a, next to your commode, or maybe in a threshold of a doorway. Those are common areas to get stuck. And if we put a deep brain stimulation in people that have really bad freezing, sometimes even DBS can make that a little worse. But you know what doesn't make that worse? Dopamine. So sometimes if we have people that have really bad freezing, we may use levodopa or other products like that to try to help with their freezing, but we may use deep brain stimulation or something like that to help with their tremor. So you can see that there's no one size fits all. We have to really be creative with our treatments for the patient and really focus on what's problematic for them. And a colleague of mine from the net, and you may have heard this, me say this before, but a colleague of mine from the Netherlands has talked about and posted some videos of some wonderful patients that looked very similar in the way that they moved, and they both had freezing of gait. And they couldn't move. But one of them, when he would listen to a certain opera, it would elicit an emotional response in him that allowed him to move very well. But as soon as that music stopped playing, he would not be able to move. Interestingly enough, another gentleman looked just like him in the way that he presented. He could hear that same opera and it didn't do a thing. But if he listened to rock and roll music at 137 beats per minute, he could move just fine. And so there is something about freezing of gait that sometimes may not respond to medicine as well, but sometimes responds to non-medicinal cues or visual cues or auditory cues. And that's why some of our walkers have laser lights on them, or you hear metronomes on the walkers, for example. And that's why Coach Carey and others and our physical therapy colleagues really work with strategies to help avoid freezing, or maybe masking tape at the threshold to try to help with things like that. So you can see, again, not one size fits all. We really got to be creative in our treatment. Even then, we have clinical trials that we are wrapping up now where there have been neuromodulation devices that you wear over your ears, not hearing devices or headphones, but it works at the brain level, that's been thought to help improve symptoms of Parkinson's. And then even certain frequencies of wavelengths of light that have been thought to improve certain Parkinson's symptoms. So it's important for us, particularly in Parkinson's, to keep an open mind as we approach these new treatment options. Because if you would have asked me all these years ago that I would be doing X, Y, and Z to try to treat Parkinson's, I would say, well, that doesn't make sense. But the brain has a way of humbling us, doesn't it? So we have to really keep an open mind and think outside the box when we're treating Parkinson's patients. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but it brings up a lot of excellent things that I get asked about on a daily basis. So thank you for that question. So next question. Yes, ma'am, in the back. The question that I'll repeat is, can tremor present as fasciculations? So let me explain what that is. Fasciculations are basically muscle rippling or twitches. So sometimes if a tremor is mild enough and you look at your hand, the little web in between your thumb and your first finger, you may see a little rhythmic twitching there. You may not see a thumb move, but if you have a tremor, you may see some very fine rippling there, and those are called fasciculations. Now, it's important to distinguish in neurology from fasciculations from tremor. So tremor is actually a rhythmic movement of a muscle, and it has that same rhythm no matter what we do, no matter what we're thinking about. It may get bigger, it may get slower, but it doesn't change frequency. I should say smaller, but it doesn't get slower. It doesn't change frequency, okay? That is a tremor, whereas a fasciculation can technically mean that there could be a muscle problem. For example, if you've ever had a pinched nerve in your neck, you may have, if it's chronic and it's long-standing enough, it may start to cause weakness in a muscle, for example. And then if your muscle doesn't get good nerve supply, starts shrinking. And as it shrinks, the muscles get irritated and then they start twitching, and that's called fasciculation. So again, there's a difference on the neurological exam between the two, but a subtle tremor can look like a twitch. Does that answer your question? Internal tremor. So that's a little different. So we oftentimes have patients tell us that they feel an internal tremor. It's not specific to Parkinson's, because even people with essential tremor can feel like they have an internal tremor. They say, I feel like my organs are shaking sometimes. And remember, with Parkinson's, with essential tremor, with any movement disorder, your movements, whether it be tremor or whether it be dyskinesia, if you're moving or wiggling too much, any movement disorder gets worse whenever you're under stress, or you're super happy about something, or you're very mad and angry about something. A tremor or dyskinesia in Parkinson's can ebb and flow depending on what emotions you have. So it's very common for some of our patients to say, as I get nervous or as I get anxious, I may even have an internal tremor. And we hear that all the time. But if we were to look at you and you're describing an internal tremor, we may not be able to see it. And so we still treat that. We wouldn't treat just an internal tremor per se, but we would treat the external tremor, and that should help with the internal tremor too, in most cases. Over here? Yes, sir.
You mentioned 9 different levodopas.
Yep.
Is the levodopa in the extended release the same as that in the immediate release?
Yeah, great question.
And why would you take extended release to the day instead of burying it?
Yeah, so write your congressman and ask them that question. No. So I'll explain. So the question was a very good question, and says, okay, you said that there were 9 different versions of levodopa. And is the extended release version the same in each version? If so, why wouldn't you just start with that, right? Did I get your question right?
Yeah, why not use the extended release rather than the immediate release?
Right. Why not use the extended release rather than the immediate release? So first of all, the immediate release is generic and has been around for 50 plus years, and it's cheap. So we usually start simple, right? Simple and cheap. That's good. So that's kind of what we start with. And I've done this before, and I always like to do this, but how many of you have heard that levodopa stops working with time? Raise your hand. Yeah, so I mean, literally without fail, every time is 50% at least have heard that. So a lot of patients are afraid to start levodopa because they're worried that the clock will start ticking as soon as they start that medicine. And they want to wait until they get worse, of course, to start their clock. But there's no such clock. And we now understand much more about levodopa, that it actually never stops working. If we are able to see it, if our brain can see the levodopa, it knows exactly what to do with it from here on out. Whether you've had Parkinson's for 1 year or 100 years, your brain will always know what to do with levodopa once it sees it. It turns levodopa into dopamine, and then your brain can store it and use it. Okay? The challenge is getting it to the brain quickly and efficiently. So my analogy has always been, you have a hole in your gas tank that's getting bigger and bigger as time goes on. So your stores of dopamine are coming down, down, down as your Parkinson's changes. So guess what my role is? To keep your dopamine up and to keep it steady and to keep your gas tank full. How I do that, though, is where all the levodopa products come into play. Because when we start with immediate release levodopa, it may last on average about 4 hours or so. And that's why you hear us talk about the timing and the timing and the timing and 8, and noon and 4. Because if you just take it every 8 hours, you're going a long time with that dopamine level going up and then falling down, and then you're left with kind of an empty tank of gas until you take that next dose, right? Well, where the extended release versions come into play is they help give you immediate release as it comes up, but then they kind of keep it up a lot better than the roller coastering immediate release, okay? The challenge is, though, they're brand name medicines, and brand name medicines cost much more than generic medicines. And so there are, stop gaps in place to where you have to try this, and step therapies you may have heard, try this, try that before you go on to this more expensive. And sometimes plans just say, we're not going to pay for that at all. And so that's a challenge for some of our patients. And then, that's just Parkinson's, yet alone my other medical conditions. And so everything adds up. And so if it was up to us, we probably would start with some of those extended release, but they wouldn't get paid for by insurance. And that's why we have to usually start with immediate release. And one thing for the scientific minded out there, one thing that we really don't know yet, because no one's ever done this study, is what happens instead of these roller coastering dopamine that we have, what happens if we give dopamine continuously, or we give it with controlled release medicines initially rather than the immediate release? Does that change anything about Parkinson's and how it progresses? We don't know. So there's some very interesting thoughts out there. So there are important changes that are coming in 2025 that hopefully you've heard about already, to Medicare specifically, particularly with the doing away of the donut hole. Okay. I don't mean the kind of donut holes you buy that our family loves, but I mean the drug donut hole. So specifically, you have to opt in to a new program that starts in January where you can pay up to $2,000 out of pocket max for any of your drugs for Medicare. And that can be spread out over 12 months. Now, I realize $2,000 is a lot of money. I realize that, but think about someone that has rheumatoid arthritis that's paying $20,000 a month for an infusion or something like that, right? So, and our Parkinson's patients pay a lot of money too for their medicine, or they can, but you have to opt into that program. And it's only for traditional Medicare patients, not for Medicare Advantage plan. But if you don't know about that, then, you don't get to opt into that program. So there are important moves being made to make medications more affordable for our patients. And I'm a huge advocate for that, by the way. But that's why. That's why we don't just start with one medicine. Now, how do I know what medicine to use? And what's my strategy there? Well, let's say that I have a patient that's taking their medicine once every 4 hours or so, and they find that maybe they have some wearing off. 3 hours in, 3.5 hours in, they start to have a return of their tremor, their stiffness, their slowness. Well, I've got several options that I can do, right? I could increase the medicine that I give them to begin with. I could increase their frequency and give it more often, but just squeeze our times together a little bit more. I could add other medicines to prevent the breakdown of dopamine. I could add other medicines that work in a different way, that work on the dopamine system, but not really dopamine directly. I've got all kinds of things that I can do. And so we take a lot of things into consideration, but I literally remember the day where I would sit in front of a patient and I wouldn't have that many options. And I would say, well, here are our 2 options. Well, now I'm like, here are our 12 options. Place to be. That's a good place to be, because what works for one patient doesn't work for all. And I know all of you know that. So that's where some of the extended release dopamines come into play. Or what if I have a patient that their sweet spot is so narrow that they need their medicine every 3 hours, and they're taking medicine 6 to 7 times a day? Well, hopefully by that point, we would have already considered other options like deep brain stimulation, if they're a candidate, or maybe some of the continuous levodopa products like Duopa or the new one Vyalev that just came out. So we have other options to think about, to make your day-to-day more convenient, because 7 times a day is not very convenient. When do you avoid protein? When you're taking something 7 times a day, you're eating pills for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks in between. I get it. So we're trying to be more, thoughtful about those things and trying to give patients more options. So I appreciate that question. That's a really good one. So, all right, others. Yes, ma'am, in the purple.
The DBS and AI DBS, and if it's recommended, which one would you recommend?
So AI DBS would be a new term for me. What? Oh, sorry. Could I tell the difference between deep brain stimulation and AI deep brain stimulation? Randy, any thoughts on that? Or I know AI. So to my knowledge, there is not an FDA approved DBS device that gives artificial intelligence and helps to make decisions there. Now there is a device that currently, like our Medtronic devices, currently do sensing where they sense some brain activity, and we can look at that brain activity and try to estimate where patients are having off time, perhaps. And there is some technology that's not quite FDA approved. Well, it's not FDA approved yet, but it will hopefully soon be FDA approved, that will make some adjustments to the brain stimulator based on what it's sensing. Okay, now that's not AI at all, but that is that is coming. Not AI, but the automatic sensing part. It's not technically AI, but that's not FDA approved yet. So, all right. So, and which would you choose? So that there are three wonderful brands for deep brain stimulation. Okay, there's Boston Scientific, there's Abbott, and then there's Medtronic. So we're lucky to have three brands that we can choose from when looking to explore deep brain stimulation. The idea, though, is the same with any brand. I'll just say. And I'm very familiar with all three brands, and our teams in Central Texas are awesome. So I'll say that. The idea is that if we jam the signal that is causing tremor, stiffness, and slowness, that we can change the symptoms of Parkinson's in a good way. Doesn't replace medication in most cases. You still need medication in order to treat Parkinson's, for example, because there are things, like I've already said, that DBS does great. Like it helps tremor, it helps stiffness, it helps slowness, but it may not help speech with Parkinson's. It may actually worsen speech in some cases. It doesn't help freezing in Parkinson's. It may actually worsen freezing in some cases, but dopamine does, it helps it. So we have, again, multiple ways that we treat it. Now, how do you know what brand to choose? Well, that's a personal choice. And again, your provider can help you with that. As of right now, there's only one brand that allows us to do virtual programming changes. And so, we have patients that come from all over the state of Texas. And so if I have a patient in El Paso, Texas, or the Valley that I'm seeing, I want to make sure that they have the opportunity to be programmed remotely, for example, so that they don't have to take off 3 days, and their loved one doesn't have to take off 3 days and get hotel rooms and all that stuff just to be seen for their 60-minute appointment, right? That's a lot of work. But hey, in West Texas, you only have two options, and you have only one in New Mexico. So there aren't a lot of doctors out there. So remember that our patients in Central Texas, we have to be thankful that we have 6 movement disorder doctors here, whereas New Mexico has 1, Oklahoma has 3. So we're very grateful for that. And then let's see, the Boston Scientific system, they have a really good rechargeable platform. So some patients choose that. And then the Medtronic system, of course, has the sensing. So each system has kind of some unique properties, but the idea is always the same, that you're jamming the signals in a good way to try to improve symptoms of Parkinson's. But what's most important in all three of those, no matter the brand, that lead is in the right spot. If that lead is off and it's in the wrong area of the brain where the bullseye needs to be, we can do everything we can, but it may not be optimized. So it all comes back to making sure you're at a good neurosurgeon, that they know what they're doing, their volume's high, and all that good stuff. So we see patients from all over the country that have retired here, and sometimes they wonder, why isn't my deep brain stimulation working well? And so we look and we program and we try, and then we image and we see, well, actually, it doesn't look like it's in the correct spot. Maybe it should have been over here a little bit more, over here a little bit more. And then we talk about the options there. And then, there are all kinds of caveats there, but deep brain stimulation has been around since the 90s. It's a wonderful opportunity to treat Parkinson's, but I understand what a commitment that is and how scary that is to think about brain surgery, right? However, if you talk to most people with deep brain stimulation, many of whom are here in this room, they will be quick to tell you, most will be quick to tell you, I wish I would have done it sooner. Okay. So I always say, and our approach is, you can't say yes or no to any therapy really until you have talked to other patients that have laid there, been there, done that, because I haven't had brain surgery yet. And so, it's hard for me to speak to what it's like, although I've seen thousands. I can't speak to that as well as someone who's actually been there and done that, right? But I can tell you about the medical aspect of things. So it's a good team-based approach. And then only then can a patient say yes or no to a therapy once they've been well informed. That's kind of my approach to deep brain stimulation. So yeah, let's go on this side of the room and we'll come back. So, yes, ma'am, in the back. Yeah, so the question was, this person knows someone who has a cardiac pacemaker that is not MRI compatible. And so if someone thereafter needs deep brain stimulation, what are the kind of options that they have? Can you even do deep brain stimulation if you have a pacemaker that's not MRI compatible? That gets to be a little trickier in Parkinson disease. And, Randy is one of the experts in the back. I don't think our other DBS, I know the Medtronic reps are at training right now, so they couldn't make it, unfortunately. But that gets tricky with Parkinson's because we really do lean to very specialized imaging. It's really cool if you've never seen it. We make a 3D model of your brain, knowing every nook and cranny, every blood vessel, every groove. We call those sulci and gyri. We know everyone specific to your brain. And then we actually prepare a pathway, an XYZ pathway, the exact trajectory to go from point A outside the brain to the bullseye that's specific to you. And so it's really cool. But we do that with MRI, very detailed MRI imaging and other kind of software. So if you can't get an MRI for Parkinson's disease, that makes it really tough. It's not impossible, but it makes it a lot tougher. Now, essential tremor, on the other hand, for those of our patients that have ET, we certainly have ways where we can do deep brain stimulation without an MRI there. But it just makes it more difficult if you can't get a patient or can't get an MRI. Anything to add, Randy? I'll repeat it. Don't worry. Yeah.
Thank you. One thing I've noticed is that there are certain MRI facilities that will scan non-compliant cardiac devices. The St. David's Medical Center being one of them, and that's something that is very specific to the facility to choose to do that. And it's usually a collaboration between the MRI lab and the cardiac labs. They have ways of monitoring the patients to make sure they're okay. And then with that said, you can also use high resolution CT scans to do less detailed, but also, methodologically sound targeting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well put.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's kind of a one-off, but very important question. And again, a whole team of people can work to find options for your loved one. Yeah. I think, yes, ma'am.
What's the best way to treat the extreme fatigue and exhaustion that comes up with Parkinson's and seems to be progressing at a faster rate the longer we're dealing with Parkinson's?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thank you. So fatigue. What causes fatigue? Everything under the sun. So we have to really troubleshoot that and figure out what could be contributing in each specific case. And I'll give you some common things that I see. The most common thing that flies under the radar for fatigue is difficulty with blood pressure. So not all of our patients will say, I feel dizzy when their blood pressure is 80/40. Sometimes our patients will actually say, I feel foggy. I feel like my legs are rubbery. I feel like I'm going to buckle. I feel like I have no energy. I feel weak. Those are some of the common things that I hear. And it's only when in that position that we take the blood pressure and we see, oh, it's actually low. Or we have someone lay down and then stand up and the blood pressure drops. And we say, oh, that's not supposed to happen. Because remember, your blood vessels have Parkinson's too. And so when you stand up, sometimes they don't squeeze together as quickly as they should. And then let's say that us guys, let's say that we're on a medicine for prostate, for an enlarged prostate, and we take that to help us pee. Sometimes that, especially in our Parkinson's patients, can cause low blood pressure or contribute to low blood pressure too. Not saying that you can't be on those medicines, just saying that that can happen and fly under the radar. Or let's say that you're on a variety of dopamine medicines or Parkinson's medicines that can also theoretically contribute to low blood pressure. So we may have to start peeling back some of those. What if you're on too much blood pressure medicine, that was given to you at one point for high blood pressure, and then you wind up, you go to the ER, you have high blood pressure, they put you on a medicine, and then now your medicine tanks, or blood pressure tanks, and then they take you off the medicine, and then it comes high again, and then you're chasing your tail. We see that a lot with our patients in Parkinson's too, because blood pressure problems in Parkinson's is a little different than just the chronically high hypertension that we're used to dealing with most people. So blood pressure is definitely a common culprit. And I would say another thing, sometimes these systems, these record systems don't talk. And doctors don't always talk either, do we? And so medicines get added on. And sometimes someone could have fatigue just from a host of different medicines that they're on. And so we start whittling those away too. The other thing, don't forget about usual stuff like primary care things like hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism, just checking your thyroid function and making sure that's good. And then sometimes when people say fatigue, what they actually mean is sleepiness, and then vice versa, of course. So there's a difference between sleepiness and fatigue, although they both happen together sometimes. But sleepiness means you could fall asleep at any moment. You have a sleep deprivation, right? You could go to sleep very easily, or you're acting out your dreams at night, and that's being disruptive. Or you're going to pee 5 times a night. And that's disrupting your sleep. So there's all kinds of different things that can contribute. So I know it's not a simple answer, but these are the things that we think of when someone says, I just feel fatigued, in Parkinson's. But the number one homework we give besides checking blood pressure is also to look at your watch when you feel fatigued. So you know how we talk about wearing off? And most people think, oh, well, that's when your med stops working. You get more tremor, you get more stiffness, you get more slowness. Well, that's true. But sometimes you can get non-motor symptoms in wearing off. And what I mean by that is, how many of you have had maybe, and you don't have to really raise your hand, but just think, if you've had sweating whenever your dopamine starts wearing off, you've heard me say it's the closest thing that us guys would ever know what menopause feels like, right? And that can happen when dopamine levels fall. Or some patients feel a pending doom. You feel very anxious, panicky, like something bad's about to happen. And you look at your watch and you're like, oh, I'm due for my medicine in 30 minutes. So it's only when you actually record that and log that in something called a symptom diary that you can follow those patterns and actually see if they're contributing. So if you say, I feel fatigued, write it down. And then if we come back and look at your log and we're like, oh, your symptoms are happening about an hour before you take your next dose, you're wearing off. And then, okay, let's have you take an as needed medicine for dopamine let's have you move up your frequency and take your medicine more often. And then with time, that gets better. And you're like, oh, it's a dopamine problem. Got it. And then if you experience that again, you know that in your particular case of Parkinson's, that could be a sign of low dopamine in you, because when you've seen one person with Parkinson's, you've seen one person with Parkinson's, right? So again, loaded question, but very important, because literally I spend my life talking about pooping and fatigue. Those are the two biggest things that I talk about all day, every day, and sleep. So that's a very important thing. So, all right, over here, any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I would love to. Question was, can I talk about Parkinson's and hallucinations? So hallucinations sound so scary, and they can be. And I know that's one of the first questions I get with our newly diagnosed Parkinson's is, oh gosh, when am I going to have dementia and hallucinations? And so we have to say, well, first of all, not everyone in Parkinson's has that. But second of all, these are treatable things. And sometimes we make things worse by giving medications, right? So there are medicines for Parkinson's that can contribute to hallucinations. Dr. Soileau, every side effect list I see has the word hallucination. I know what you're thinking. I know. So, and it's true. And the reason why every medication with Parkinson's has the same side effects is because they're all treating Parkinson's. Parkinson's has constipation in these things too. So too do the medication side effect list that. But there are culprits like amantadine or dopamine agonists. Those are much more likely to cause hallucinations, for example, than levodopa. Now, that doesn't mean they're bad medicines, but in the right patient, we have to consider that. Sometimes it can be a number of different things contributing to that. And anytime someone's coasting well, doing well, everything's good, and wow, now I'm seeing bugs crawling up the wall and these things are appearing out of nowhere. What's going on? Usually 9 times out of 10, it's a urinary tract infection. So something simple to do is go to your primary care doctor and have your urine checked. Or maybe you're starting to get sick or come down with something like the flu or fever or something like that. And I always say, don't use those times of illness as a predictor for how you're doing with your Parkinson's, because everything changes when you're sick. And you'll know that. If you've been sick with Parkinson's, you know that it takes a while sometimes to get back to how you were beforehand. But let's say that someone has hallucinations, whether it be I'm seeing fleeting shadows and I look and it's gone, or I'm seeing someone outside who's stealing my tools on my property, or I'm seeing cats, or I see people, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes they're scary, sometimes they're not. We can treat those. We always take a good look at your medications to make sure there are no interactions and stuff like that could be contributing. Secondly, there's a medicine called pimavanserin, or Nuplazid is the brand name medicine. That takes about 4 weeks or so to kick in, so it's not quick, but it's very effective. And then there's another medicine called quetiapine or Seroquel that we use to help treat hallucinations too. And again, very gentle doses with all these things, but that can be helpful. Do we need to treat fleeting shadows and looking out of the corner of our eye? No, not necessarily. But if it's disruptive in a day-to-day way, we certainly should, And so that's kind of the scoop on hallucinations. And there are soon going to be other trials for medications with hallucinations and Parkinson's with new or novel agents, medicines that will soon be open as well. I know that, but that can be a very scary thing. And, one of the companies had a commercial on TV for that for a while. And it was kind of a twofold thing. It brought tons of patients in and caused a little bit of fear, right? At the same time, it allowed us the opportunity to explain and teach and talk about it. And it kind of made it more known and it made it more accepted that you could have hallucinations and Parkinson's, and it's okay to talk about that, and you're not by yourself. So it really did bring some good ultimately, I think, with what we saw. Yeah, so that's a good question. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I'm a night owl. Sometimes I'll go to bed at 10 o'clock and sometimes I'll go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
How does that affect taking my medications? And
Yeah, the question was if you're a night owl and you have kind of an erratic sleep schedule, how do you take your medicine? Or I'll throw on one to that. What if you're a shift worker, right? And you're still working and you have to work the night shift? Well, do you take your medicine in the daytime when you're asleep, or do you take your medicine at nighttime when you're awake? Yeah, that's a tough one. I would say you try to normalize your day as best you can. And in Parkinson's, you have to do your best to keep a schedule if that's possible, right? I know it's hard. But what I always say is, you stick to your timing. So let's say I've got a patient that wakes up at 5 a.m., but they don't go to bed until midnight. That's a long stretch. And if they're only taking their medicine 3 times a day and they've had Parkinson's for 8 years, may not cut it. They may need to take it more frequently. And that's okay. If you need it, you need it, I would say. But you have to try the interval in between your doses are what's most important. And then again, paying attention to a person's symptoms. Are you having a return of your symptoms with your medicine? Sometimes patients will say, well, why don't I need medicine when I'm asleep? Why isn't it 24/7? Well, when you've had Parkinson's for 6 years or less, you're not moving as much in your sleep. So your brain still has dopamine. It still uses dopamine, but you don't have to necessarily take it around the clock because you don't need it. It's a supply and demand. The demand's not as great at night when you're asleep. So therefore you don't need the supply, right? But some patients do. Some patients, their dopamine falls and then they have the curling or the twisting or the cramping at night. And those of you that wake up at 3 and 4 and 5 a.m. and you can't get back to sleep and it's not due to bladder, for example, sometimes it actually is due to low dopamine levels. And so we do have to give some extended release coverage for one of those medicines to those folks, or maybe, another treatment for those folks. So we just have to take each patient individually there. That's a good question, though. I always tell the story of a patient that I saw her and you've probably heard this before, but she was wiggling and moving really bad with really bad dyskinesia. So that means the medicine is too high. And it was my first time to see her, and her alarm goes off at our visit, and she reaches in her purse and she's going to take her medicine. And I say, well, why would you take your medicine right now? And she said, well, I was told that to be a good Parkinson's patient, I should always take my medicine on time. And I said, well, that's true. That's true. But in years and years and years of seeing doctor after doctor after doctor, no one ever stopped to say that that's true. But where your dopamine level is crucial. So if your gas tank is already overflowing with dopamine and you're wiggling and you're moving all over the place and you add more gas to your gas tank, it's just going to make your dyskinesia worse. So literally by changing the dose and the timing for the first time in years, by making a simple change, we were able to get her lined out easily. And so this is why we spend so much time in our office really talking about timing and what are your symptoms and what are you noticing and what is your loved one or spouse or family member or whomever noticing when you're wearing off of your dopamine, because we can time that recipe just right to where we can keep the gas tank full. So I always like to share that story because, again, sometimes it is as simple as take your medicine on time or change the time. Or if you haven't pooped in 5 days, remember your medicine gets absorbed in your gut. And so if you are not moving your gut, then your medicines don't get absorbed. So when patients call us and say, I don't know what's wrong, my medicine's not working. When's the last time you pooped? 5 days ago. Okay. You've heard of take a Tylenol and call me in the morning. Well, this is go poop and call me in the morning. And literally their medicine works after that. And so I never imagined my life would be talking about that, but it matters. It works. And that's why all these other versions of levodopa are really centered around how can we get it to your brain, bypass the gut, just get it straight to the brain quickly, efficiently, and not have to mess with all that. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Talking about the strap and
Mhm.
you were talking about the strap and how you can diagnose Parkinson's through your breathing?
Mhm.
Okay. Does Parkinson's, if you are a CPAP user, affect the number of events you might have in an evening?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say the first thought is we don't know yet, but we're looking into it. Okay, that's the first thing. Traditionally, I would have said not really, because the reason that someone has obstructive sleep apnea, where they stop breathing and then your body builds up enough adrenaline and then kind of stop breathing, gasp, and snore. The reason that you have that is usually anatomical for the most part. So that's why when we kind of get bigger and more fluffy, this is why our breathing changes and our snoring increases, and sometimes the events increase if you already know that you have obstructive sleep apnea. Even if you're on a CPAP. But the nice thing about CPAPs is that they're auto titrating these days. And so it will accommodate whatever it needs to keep your events down. That's the nice part. There's some technical things that, we probably don't need to get into here, but there are different types of apneas. There's obstructive apnea, but there's also central apnea. And some of those patients need a little bit different type of machine. There is central apnea associated with some types of Parkinson's, not all types, but certain types of Parkinson's. And that's a little bit different than obstructive apneas. But again, sleep is this huge elephant in the room, but yet we know so little about it, but yet it's so important. And there's even last year at our neurology conference, there is a system called the glymphatic system, not lymphatic, but glymphatic. I think some of you who were at the event the other day heard about this, but turns out that system in your sleep is what clears some of the toxins that your brain produces when it's working all day long. And it's thought or hypothesized that if you're getting poor REM sleep, that you don't go through that clearance process, and that could be contributing to some of these neurological conditions like Alzheimer's or like Parkinson's and things like that. And I said, oh, great. Oh man, I'm already behind, So, but turns out sleep is important for ways that we're just finding out. And so I think there's going to be far more to the story there that we just don't know yet. So I think your question is a very, very good one and kind of is speaking to what's to come, I would imagine. So I think that's a cool question, but it just shows you how important sleep is and how serious we need to take acting out dreams and things like that. Okay. All right. One more question, or Mary Jane's giving me the boot. All right. Yes, ma'am. You were the first hand I saw. Miss Mary.
This is a little off the track, but I don't know what percentage of Parkinson's patients have difficulty with eyesight, but
yeah,
it's causing the double vision and
Yeah, double vision and eye problems. I'll just blanket it. Eye problems. Great question. So I would say the most common thing that I see with Parkinson's when they complain, Parkinson's patients who complain of visual problems, is dry eyes. First of all, some medicines, particularly bladder medicines and mood medicines, can contribute to dry eyes. And dry eyes can cause burning when these dusty drought conditions, wind blows, all that stuff gets in our eyes and they're dry, it can really hurt. Allergies can cause dry eyes. And then just Parkinson's. Remember, you're not blinking as often as you should when you have Parkinson's, and therefore that can cause dry eyes because your cornea is exposed to the elements more. So one easy way to figure out if double vision, for example, is caused by dry eyes is to take some natural Visine or natural tears or some re-wetting formula, and then, blink, 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 and then see if your double vision gets better temporarily. And if that's the case, that's easy breezy. Now you know, and then we can work at figuring out the rest. Bless you. Sometimes double vision, though, is actually caused not by dry eyes, but if your eye with Parkinson's and eye becomes a little misaligned, just off just a little bit, you'll notice more double vision when you get sleepy or towards the end of the day when your eye's a little more lazy, and then double vision can come on there. Sometimes people can have double vision from true brain stuff. And so we look at MRIs sometimes when people complain of double vision. And in either case, usually we send our patients to a special type of eye doctor called a neuro-ophthalmologist. There aren't many of those around in our area either, but we send patients there, and there are prisms that they can put in your glasses to try to refocus the double vision. And that can be helpful, but we can't forget about the usual stuff too, right? People can have cataracts, cause vision problems. People can have other problems with their eyes. So you got to have a good eye exam, and the simple stuff has to be ruled out too. But it's something that gets complained about quite a bit. Dry mouth, dry eyes, all those things, those are pretty common in our patients with Parkinson's. And so that's another non-motor symptom that we spend a lot of time talking about. So great question. And you guys are, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but we just don't have that time. So I want to thank you for your attention. Don't forget to fill out your surveys on your chair. Don't forget to make your way. If the vendors are still here, make sure you say hello to them too, because without them, we couldn't do this. All right. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I've just confirmed he will stay around for questions. So after you put up the chairs, that's when you can do that. And I'll go on and jump. I'm going to jump back on my.
Okay, I won't end it. I'll let you.
Oh, yeah. No, not yet. Because we got some cool things coming up. Let me do this one. And so he's going to stick around for sure. And let me share. There we go. And so that was just our official thank you. And let's see here. There we go. Come on. There we go. Okay, now door prizes. Does everybody have their ticket? So get your ticket ready. They're going to bring up some great door prizes here. So make sure you get your ticket ready. Also, as Dr. Soileau said, thank you for filling out the survey. And there's a little